When a man picks up a knife, there's an old memory from the collective unconscious that surfaces. That's a quote by Bob Loveless. Guys, this is Fernando doing another video for More Survivalists. And if you don't know who Bob Loveless is, that's fine. Just know that he's the greatest knife designer in modern history. He's basically the father of most of the models that you see done by several knife manufacturers and custom knife makers. Most of them are either direct copies or strongly linked or influenced to a Bob Loveless design. He's the father of the modern tactical knife. He created a drop point knife. There's so many things that Bob Loveless did that it would be impossible to cover that. Even just scratching the surface would require a dedicated video. This time we're talking about the Gerber Guardian, which is this knife that you see here. This is designed by Bob Loveless almost 20 years ago. And going back to his quote about that collective unconscious that he made reference to, it's this: picking up a knife, and in your genes it's already programmed. Nothing comes as natural to a human being as doing this. It's part of what you are. It's thousands and thousands of years of evolution from the first time a man picked up a stone, smashed it against one another and made a sharp edge, so as to, without even knowing, using the physics of force applied to a very small surface. That's what it's all about. We use knives every single day. No? For thousands and thousands of years. 300,000 years or more. I could actually show you. This is 30,000 years old. Do you imagine what it must have been like when a Neanderthal picked this up, made this crudely, smashing one stone with the other, making those chips and slowly making sharp edges all around it? What it must have been like to cut raw flesh, raw skin and flesh with this stone tool. As you see here, it's chipped on one side, and you see how it's more satin in comparison to the rest. That's because of the natural mineral deposits that make this patina. Usually these tools are found by farmers. They get them hit by machines and breaks a piece of it and such. I don't have a problem if that actually reduces the value and makes it more affordable compared to one that would be intact. There's many of this around. It only proves how important tools are for us. And a knife, or the evolution of a knife, is the most important tool. No matter how conservative or how self-conscious you are, you use a knife every single day. People will say, I don't like knives, I'm scared. How many times have you heard that? If you're a knife guy, like I suppose you are watching this video, I'm scared of knives. Well, you use one every single day of your life. Every time you sit down and have dinner or lunch or whatever, you're using a knife. If you cook for your family, you're using a knife a lot every single day. And again, the collective unconscious of picking up the knife, the knowledge of how to use it. Yes, you can improve your knowledge if you take, for example, bushcrafting classes, or learn about it and practice it. You can improve that. You can improve your knowledge for defensive purposes and the use of a knife if you take a few classes and train and learn some of the more evolved and more advanced stuff. But I am of the belief that, as Bob Loveless said, every single one of us can use a knife with more than enough proficiency, because it's already in our genes. It's part of who we are. The tool we created has been molding us for hundreds of thousands of years. That's not going to be going away, and there's no class that's going to be teaching that. It's in your genes and it's part of who you are. And for a knife made like this one, specifically for defensive purposes, I believe that anyone can pick it up. I don't believe that it's the best tool there is for defense. I think that in places where a firearm is legal, I would carry a firearm. Now, if you're talking about a place where you cannot carry a firearm, but you can carry a knife like this, yes. It's much more efficient than lots of people give it credit for. Actually, even if you have a firearm and you carry one every single day, people that know what they're talking about will say that you still need to have a knife with you. The knife, and this is based on experience and classes, the knife is actually more lethal at close range, at extreme close range, at contact distance than the firearm. Someone that has even a basic idea of what he's doing and how to use any of these tools especially knows how firearms operate and the mechanics of the firearm used in fights. He will know how to disable you and your firearm and cause lots of damage with a sharp-edged tool like this one. So yes, I believe it's important. I believe it's something that anyone can do. Anyone can pick a knife and defend himself. It happens all the time. People picking up a knife from the kitchen, using it against attackers. There's more than enough people that actually use it against armed attackers and still manage to make it. And again, having a little bit more training and knowledge, especially having knowledge of the human body and where it is that you should be using this in the human body, it's going to be a huge edge in the fight. And for a small knife like this one, for a 3.13 inch blade knife, you will not find anything better than a Bob Loveless design. Alright, you can have different knives, but for this size, this weight, this general geometry, this ease of carrying, you will not surpass the design of Bob Loveless. For 40 bucks, which is give or take what this knife costs, this Gerber Guardian costs, you're buying a classic by the best knife designer in modern history, Bob Loveless. It's genius. I mean, the man is a genius. He was a genius. He died a couple of years ago, but you will not make something better. If I give you this this general shape and these conditions for a knife, this is it. This is the best that could have been done. It's not sharp. It's not very sharp at all. It's not even, it wouldn't even, I mean, you can show it to you. It's not going to be cutting even paper. But that's not the objective of this knife. This is an exquisite shank, in my opinion. A shank like a prison shank used for stabbing. Yeah, that's what this is. Made in good old USA. So you guys that don't like some of the Gerber knives, I don't like much Gerber knives, especially some of the latest ones. Those the Bear Grylls series, those actually make me physically sick. I feel like throwing up whenever I see one of them. I don't know what it is. They're just awful. But at the same time, it's a company that's making this possible. Gerber is making it possible for you to have a Bob Loveless design for 40 bucks. So thanks for that. And I like talking about all sorts of knives. I don't have any problem talking about cheap knives or expensive knives, and you guys know that. I don't get any of this for free. I buy all my knives. So I don't have any compromise with anyone. That's why I can talk about a busty knife and say how great it is. A $350 knife, maybe more with the G10 handles. And then talk about a 40-buck knife or talk about a $1 knife, like I'm planning on doing so soon with another video. But you know, be informed, be smart, know what you're buying. If you're buying something like this, know why it is that it's worth that money. And if you're buying something like this, know how great it is what you're having for so little money. Maybe it's not the materials. The steel in this knife isn't anything to brag about, but it's of course much better than most people will give it credit for. People tend to think that if it's not a super expensive knife or a top-of-the-line steel, then it's not worth it. Actually, steels in general, even cheap steels, are much better than most people give them credit for. In general, it's most about the knife design and the knife geometry than the steel. Modern steels in general, no matter cheap ones, they're still very, very good. And when it comes to design, you will not find much better than this. in this general shape and category of a knife, which is a boot knife intended for defensive purposes. You actually not only have a Bob Loveless design, you have a knife. I actually seen it in many movies as well. It seems to be very popular in the props community. The guys that decide which knives and which tools go in each movie. I've seen this, I believe, in one of the first Lara Croft movies. She had it as a boot knife in her boot and opens a letter from her father or something like that. She uses this, the Gerber Guardian. The handle is nylon, wrapped with Santoprene. Makes for a very comfortable little handle. Because of the shape, fits large, medium hand well in spite of the small size. The sheath it comes in is actually pretty smart. This knife has been around for 20 years, give or take. In that time, this sheath was pretty revolutionary. It has these tabs on the side, these little buttons here. You can push them up and down, and that makes for a stronger knife retention, you know, as it is, which is the way I like. So, you know, it snaps nicely into place, and if you move this up and down, it actually makes it more, it's like harder, you know. Pulling it all the way up, it's going to be very hard to get it out once it's in. Yeah, it's maybe too hard. Pulling it down releases and reduces the tension. That's more like it. Still snaps right into place. And pulling it down even furthermore, it's going to be even easier to pull it out. Yeah, maybe a little bit too soft. That's the way I like it, right there. Pretty solid. This clip, using a coin, putting a little bit of tension twisting in there, can be rotated 180 degrees. Completely to one side, to the other, so as to have it tip up or tip down carry, depending on what you like. It's made in good old USA, which is, you know, something nice. Lots of people say, well, Gerber makes some products in China. Well, this one is made in US. The stainless steel used, I think it's 440 or 425, a modified 425, I believe. Great for the purpose of this knife. Short blade with a stout, strong geometry. Not a knife that requires great steel in terms of sharpness, mostly because it's a knife for this, for penetration, for stabbing. The thing that will come naturally to any human being looking to defend his life, picking one of these, quickly stabbing. It's going to be penetrating very, very well. Thank you, Bob Loveless. So guys, that's basically it. It's a great design for someone that is educated in terms of knives, knows what he's buying. For 40 bucks you buy a very nice knife, a bit of modern knife history, and actually a small fixed blade that is pretty handy for the intended purposes, which are of course self-defense. Right guys, as I always say, remember to subscribe if you're liking these videos. Take care, see you next time, have a great day.